Hello and welcome to the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington and I have a brand new episode for you. Hopefully you guys have continued to engage with the platform and more importantly, re-listened and caught up with some of the past episodes because there have been very many episodes that have been recorded here at the Toy Talks podcast. I'm also going to open up with a quote. Now, usually I open up with one, but I feel like because I have been away, I have to reintroduce myself. You know, everybody, how they behave. You know, you take a break, you know, and then you come back. It's like, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is T-O-Y. Okay, so you bring too much to the table to be treated like a napkin. Let me repeat it for those people in the back. You bring too much to the table to be treated like a napkin. And that was tweeted by Biggs Burke. Write it down. Put it on a post-it note. Put it on your keyboard. Inject it. We're not napkins. Ashake, he said, organize. Every other day I organize. Some of us are wise. As in, he's basically telling us organize. So organize quick. The fact that you're listening to this podcast, the fact that you've engaged with the platform, the fact that you've listened to the past episodes, you've decided to organize yourself. That's just the thing. You've decided to what? Organize yourself. Some of us are wise because we've been engaging with the platform. We've been engaging with the masterclasses. Wham bam. And then we go there in the workplaces and we show them that not only have we come here to stay, but we have worked and earned the position that we're in. And just because we are black women doesn't make us agreeable. And if we're not agreeable, it doesn't mean we're a problem. We need to start changing that mindset of, and what we do is we push that narrative where non-black people believe that when we're not agreeable, that we're a problem. And then we spend our time justifying why we are not agreeing, almost justifying why we're not a problem. And that's a problem in itself, because that means that we are allowing them to push this negative narrative that we're not allowed to say no. And we have a podcast episode called The Power of No already. I've already addressed it. But I really want to get under the hood of this black woman agreeability. Is that even a word? It isn't, but it is today. We don't have to always agree. You don't have to always say yes. And over the last 2 weeks, I've been through it on both contracts. And both of the problems have been the two white women in both contracts. The caucasity of the caucasitor has been caucasitating. The caucasitor of the caucasitor has been caucasitating. But I'm what suits them. Because one thing with me, I do my due diligence, I do all of that, but I'm not going to be agreeable so that you will approve my timesheet or pay my invoices. I'm not going to. And equally, I'm not going to allow you to make me into a problem because you've put me in a difficult situation and then I speak up for myself and then you speak me down. Because this is, as black women, what I feel that we do. We do it in the workplaces, we do it in life, and in the hope that we'll have a peaceful journey. But unfortunately, not everyone's workplace allows for peace and allows you to have a peaceful journey. The last 2 weeks have been far from peaceful for me. I literally have 6 episodes of the Toy Talks podcast to be recorded based on the things that I've learned, what I've experienced, but more importantly, all the information, the knowledge, the learning lessons that I'm able to pass on to you all. And hopefully you guys are able to relate and then take the best out of what I have said and put it into practice in your own workplaces. You know how we normally do here. Before we get into the meat of this episode, I do want to quickly touch on a few things that have been happening in the UK. Obviously, what you call a lady in waiting of the Queen of England, the late Queen of England, Lady Hussey, has been really hussying. And, you know, I'm not going to get into the details. I know we're all aware of the racist remarks and interrogations she put a fellow black woman through whilst this black woman was invited by the quote-unquote Queen Consort to Buckingham Palace. And, you know, she attended there. There was many other people there. And this lady Hussey was interrogating her about where is she really from. And she has since resigned, and obviously Buckingham Palace has put out a statement to say that racism will not be accepted and all this. But if we just double it back a little bit, number one, Meghan and Harry don't tell us about racism within the gates of Buckingham Palace. So it shouldn't be any surprise. And also, wasn't there this legislation about hiring, I can't remember exactly what it is. It was either hiring black people or the inability to take Buckingham Palace or whoever the royals are to the employment tribunal on the basis of racism. I think it was the latter. Either way, racism has been pervasive within Buckingham Palace, and actually, why are we surprised? the colonizers, the head chief colonizers in chief. Why should we be surprised at racism and it being brought to the forefront in the way it has been over the last week? The reality is the British monarchy and a lot of the British people are unwilling to be honest about the existence of racism. There are people who need to protect white supremacy, and we don't need to go into the details of why. We all know why. And I just kind of feel like, but they're talking about it like, oh my God, such surprise and shock. But as black people, are we really surprised and shocked? No, we're not. The way I see it is, in the workplace, racism and the protection of white supremacy plays out every single day. And it plays out in society, it plays out in the media. And I, for one, have always tried to understand what the monarchy brings to the UK. How we, as a collective, benefit from the monarchy, because I'm yet to understand it. But that's just my view. When we talk about racism and they talk about Buckingham Palace and, what happened, there really seems to be this justification that she was an old white lady as to the reason why it could have possibly happened, or maybe she was misunderstood. The gaslighting that black women have to go through on a daily basis and be made to feel as though because we have raised an issue, because we are being attacked, we become the problem. And I'm so happy that that black queen opened up her mouth and spoke the things, because otherwise people would say it didn't happen. There were witnesses. You see, this is how brazen racism is in the protection of white supremacy. A lot of these people, they don't hide it anymore. The way that the culture, quote unquote culture, is in society is that, racism it's the microaggressions. But no one ever actually really discusses the macroaggressions of racism and it actually not being hidden in certain spaces. You see, where white people feel protected, they are more likely to feel like they can be racist in the safety of what they deem as protection. And she felt, Lady Hussey is her name, and I can't remember, and a fellow black queen was interviewed, she said, Hussey by name, Hussey by nature, and I 100% agree. You see, Buckingham Palace has created the backdrop of what would seemingly be a protective space for that type of behaviour. So I'm not surprised that that woman come out with that. You see, the question people should be asking is, why are people almost making it seem as though racism has never been a part of Buckingham Palace and the monarchy? Why do we pretend as though, what is it about society that chooses to ignore the quote unquote British Empire's hand in slavery and racism, and the hand in a lot of things that have happened in Africa and the West Indies? How come no one wants to talk about that? You see, if we want to talk about racism, Buckingham Palace, the monarchy, need to actually accept its role. Until it accepts its role, we're going to see many Lady Husseys and Mr. Hussey's Husseying. It just so happens that it was done to a person who not only advocates for people who have experienced domestic violence, but as a black woman, a conscious black woman, and it was done in front of people. So there was no getting out of it. But the brazenness in which the racism was displayed shouldn't be a shock to anybody, because Lady Hussey believed that she was in Buckingham Palace, whereby she had the protection to be who she is. And as far as I'm concerned, that is a person who is displaying racism as a part and parcel of who she is. Bearing in mind, Lady Hussey is actually Prince William's godmother, and Prince William has said absolutely nothing. He's not released any statement. Neither is the quote-unquote King Charles. And I say quote-unquote because they're not my kings, they're not my princes. They're the British. And for me, as far I was born here, I have a British passport, but I know that if we were to look at it properly, I don't feel British. I'm not a British person. I'm an African woman, and I claim it with my heart and my soul. I'm here for reparations. That's the way I look at it. And I'm just waiting for Prince William to say something. King Charles, they're not going to. And this is what I mean. When you're silent, you are complicit. If you are really about eradicating racism, and racism has no place in Buckingham Palace, and the people that represent the highest representatives of the monarchy, i.e. King Charles and Prince William, should then speak out. But they're not going to, because that's their way of being complicit in protection of white supremacy, as far as I'm concerned. And that's all I'm going to say on the topic, because I believe that we have people within our community who have spoken about it, who have gone on TV and stuff, and a lot of what they said I agree with. But equally, I think it's important for us to actually draw some parallels between what we see happening in society, playing out in 4D, and what happens in the world of work. You know, I'm not sitting here, and I've never sat here saying everyone from a certain group is like a certain way. But my experiences, especially over the last 2 weeks and throughout my career, has very much been white people. And I think there has been this issue between those who are categorized in the BAME. And I definitely have seen, you know, I have seen how us as black people have been treated by non-black people. And I believe that people's need to have some proximity to whiteness because of what it may, because some of the privileges it may demonstrate to them, has meant that the way in which I have been treated and my fellow black queens have been treated has been not only just with a heavy hand, it's just been with pure disdain, racism, hatred. And a lot of my experiences have been with non-black people, but over the last 2 weeks, it has been with white women. And I do wonder whether, like, is there something with the moon? Is there something I don't understand? Maybe it's towards the end of the year, I don't know. But there are some white women who understand white supremacy so well, and the need to protect white supremacy, that they are willing to do whatever it takes and hide under the fragility of their whiteness to be able to justify their behaviour. 2 weeks ago, one of my friends, she contacted me. Lovely, lovely girl. Like, she's one of those people that she is a very warm person, and she always wants to please. Like, and I've seen it in the workplace, and I've seen how she operates. And I personally, in my view, I think she's too nice. And I think she's too nice to some of these white women who do not appreciate her niceness, but instead see it as a weakness. They see her as weak. And because they see her as weak, they treat her like she's a fool. And they do it, and I can compare myself in the way that some of them treat me, and they wouldn't try it because, number one, I don't give them niceness. You work for niceness. If you want me to be nice to you, it's mutual. You're nice to me, I'm nice to you. What I'm not going to be is the person who is nice to you that you see as a weak person, and therefore you consistently believe that I need to be agreeable to you. I then behave agreeable to you, and you use your size 13s to march on me. It's not going to happen. So my friend had called me up, and she's got 3 contracts. She's a contractor. One of those contracts, I actually work with her, although she's not on my team. And she's been in that contract for about, so she's got 3 contracts. On one of them, she'd been in that contract for about 3 weeks before we had spoken. And periodically, you know, she calls, she checks on me, I do the same. But this day she called me and I could hear the exasperation in her breath. So I was like, girl, what's up? What's going on? She says, Toya, you know, this third contract, I might have to give it up. And I've never heard her say that. Like, she's one of those people, she'd be hustling hard, honey. And there's nothing wrong with giving up, but I don't necessarily view what she was saying as giving up. But again, it allowed me to understand like where her mental headspace was. And she says, you know, Toya, I've literally been there 3 weeks. 1 week, you know, to settle down and understand what's happening. The second week to actually understand what my deliverables are. And the third week to actually start working towards delivering. The contract is for 6 months. And she said, Toya, within my first 2 weeks, the manager that signs off my timesheet, she put in a meeting in my diary. And she said to me, the first thing she said, she goes, you know, you're a contractor here, you're here for 3 months and I need you to deliver from day one. And I need you to prove your worth. So as my friend was saying this, I said, stop. I said, before you continue, I already know that this role is problematic. And she says, why do you say that? I says, because when you as a contractor go into a role, and I say as a contractor, but as any professional going into a role, you're there because there is a need, yeah? As a contractor, usually we're there to provide a solution to sometimes, you know, maybe there's something they're implementing that they don't have the knowledge to, you know, in-house, so they get us. But we're there to provide a service because there is a gap. And it's the same way as if you was a perm employee. You're there to fill a gap because the knowledge is not there, or because somebody's left, or whatever the case is. You're there to add value where there is a gap. So when someone says, prove your worth, that what they're actually saying is, you need to give me a reason to pay you. And that is a problem. Because telling me I need to give you a reason to pay me means I have to justify my existence in this role every single day for 6 months. And when I said this to my friend, she broke down. I'm telling you, I didn't even know this girl had tear ducts. Honey. And as she broke down, I was quiet and I let her get it out. She says, Toya, everything you have said is what I have had to do. And I'm now at breaking point because this woman is putting meetings in my diary every day and asking me to tell her how I've spent my day. And today, she asked me to every 2 hours to give her updates in what I have produced. And at the end of each day, I need to give her an hour by hour blow of what I have done. I said, girl, it's time to get out. She says, I know, but I need the money. I said, you don't need the money. You've got 3 contracts, darling. You've got 3 contracts. 2 are inside scope and 1 is outside. So already the tax efficiency there is 0. You needed 1 outside and 1 inside, or 2 outside and 1 inside. This is not making sense. This is greed. This is your greed now. She says, but Toya, I don't know. I just needed somebody else outside of where I'm working to basically tell me what you've just said to me. But you've said it in such a way that I realise that actually I'm a slave to this woman. And she doesn't believe that I'm worth my wage unless I prove my worth. And I can't operate like that. I says, well, of course we can't. I says, listen, you've signed a contract, okay? And part of that contract is they need to sign off your timesheet. So my question to you is, how many timesheets has she not signed? She goes, there's 2 outstanding. I said, and you're here talking to me. I said, you better call your agency and better do it real quick. She said, Toya, leave it with me. Thank you so much. You know, I'll let you know what happens later on today. I didn't actually hear from her. But the next day, something said to me, you know what, just check up on her. So I did. And she didn't pick up. But within 20 minutes, she called me back and she says, Toya, she's basically terminated my contract. And she called me up and she basically said I wasn't delivering. And she's terminating the contract effective immediately. So I said, hang on. So in the time you've spoken to me, what has happened? She says, well, I wanted to give myself a few days to think, but literally, like, it's just happened and it's come out of the blue. I said, well, it hasn't come out of the blue because we kind of had the conversation, and effectively all she's done now is because she feels that you're not dancing to the beat of her drum, that she wants you out. And she said, but Toya, I even said to her that I'm going to do a handover. In the middle of that handover, my IT access was cut off. So I said, right, you need to call the agency. Do you all know that this agency weren't picking up the phone to her? She was leaving messages with the consultant. He wasn't calling her back, so she rang me. I said, that woman has already spoken to the agency. The agency has no allegiance to you. They've got allegiance to that client because now they see it as that's who they're making their commission out of. That's who they're making their money from. They're basically already looking for your replacement. They're trying to get paid. So babes, they're not even checking for you. Your only option now is your umbrella company. Number one, you've got a contract. So what's the notice period? She goes, the notification period for termination is 1 week. I said, well, she's got to give you either 1 week's notice or she pays you in lieu of notice. But given that she's terminated you effective immediately, you need to have sent an email to her following up that conversation. Have you done that? She says, no. I says, well, put the phone down, do it now. I says, also, you need to speak to the agency about those 2 invoices because what she has done is she's held them to ransom. She's held them and you've allowed it to go on for 2 weeks. I says, I don't have any outstanding invoices. That don't work with me. If I send you an invoice and you're on payment terms and you don't meet those payment terms, it's tools down. And I don't play that game. So the fact that you've allowed 2 weeks to culminate, I don't understand how that's happened. But that's neither here nor there. You need to speak to the agency. So, Queens, a long story short, as I'm talking to you today, she's only just got the umbrella company to basically get in contact with the agency and basically said it's unlawful deduction of wages. You've got to approve her timesheet. There's been no dispute on the timesheet. This is now used as a weapon and to beat, my friend with, simply because this woman felt like my friend needed to prove herself. And because she didn't prove herself the way they wanted to, they're now trying to not pay her, not because she hasn't done the work, but because they don't believe she deserves the money. And they have to pay her in lieu of notice since they terminated effective immediately. And they took her internet access. They've basically said, we'll pay you because we don't want you to work by conduct. So my friend's got her money and everything. And they approved it, to give her money and her notice. And I said to her, what did you learn from the situation? And she was going round and round in circles. I said, what did you learn? And she says, Toya, I'm so in emotion. I don't know what there is to learn. I said, can I tell you what there is to learn? She says, yeah. I said, there's 3 things. The first thing is your self-esteem is really low. Because at the moment someone tells you you need to prove your worth, they're basically telling you you're worthless to me. If someone is already deeming you as worthless, are you really going to spend the time proving what you are worth? She says, I never looked at it that way. You see, I keep coming back to this point. As black women, if we don't know what our worth is, these people are quite willing to tell us our worth is 0. And then is that toxic relationship with that subservient relationship where we then also become agreeable because we want to feel like we're worth something to you. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie. When you are a contractor, you're slightly more vulnerable for various reasons, but I don't see those vulnerabilities any different to if you're a perm employee. The difference is you maybe have a bit more legal protection. You've got HR, you've got things like that. Whereas as a contractor, there isn't you are your own HR. But I keep saying, you are a business. Whether you're an employee or whether you're self-employed as a contractor, you are a business and you need to operate as such. You see, it's not in these people's interest for us to have an understanding and an acknowledgement of self-esteem. It's not in their interest. It is in their interest to tell us we're nothing and to demean us so they can control us. And that's the point. You didn't even think that you were worth your money. Because if you thought you were worth your money, you wouldn't allow two timesheets to go unpaid. You see, what you were basically saying to her is, yeah, I agree, I have to prove my worth. And I haven't proven my worth, so I'm not going to chase the payment of my invoices. That is what you were literally saying to her. And my friend was like, I never actually thought of it like that. I says, but that by your conduct, that's what you're actually saying. You know, sometimes our communication isn't just the words, it's our actions, it's the things we do. These people understand and they watch us. They do their due diligence on us because these people know who, or at least think they know who they can do these things to. You let them get away with something once and twice, it becomes a pattern, and they go and share with others about what they can get away with. It took her almost 3 weeks to get comfortable to say to somebody, you need to prove your worth. That's fight talk. You can't come to me on any level and tell me I need to prove. The day you tell me I need to prove my worth, I'm quitting. Call me a quitter. I don't give a fuck. Because my mental health is worth more than money. It's taken years for me to be the woman I am today. I've had to walk those hot coals. I have had to walk that valley of the shadow, that dark forest. I've had to walk in that wilderness. I had to put myself through education. I've had to pick up those jobs alongside studying. I've made the sacrifices to be here, to be where I am. Yeah? I've had to go through certain things and work through workplace trauma while in other workplaces to get here. I don't have to prove anything to anyone, least of all a white woman, a white person, any race of person. I don't have to prove myself to nobody. The only person I need to prove myself to is myself. I need to prove to myself that I can, I will, and I must. That's it. As black women, unless you organize your mind and strategically understand the route and the strategy that you are going to take in every aspect of your life, these people will sink their teeth into your vulnerability, play on your mental health, and make you think that not only are you undeserving, that you have to also prove your worth. How exhausting, how tiring. Do you think that I'm not exhausted and I'm not tired coming here to talk about some of the traumas I am in situ and dealing with? I'm bloody tired. I need to let you all know. But I refuse to back down. I'm not doing it. Because you back down for one, you back down for all. I'm not backing down. And the not backing down I'm not doing is I'm not going to give up on myself and the self-esteem I've worked hard to build. I'm not giving up on that. I will be strategic. I will put myself first and I will be loyal to myself first. I'm not going to prove my worth to you who doesn't even recognize me as a human being. I'm a black woman, but you don't even see me like that. You see me as a subservient, subordinate, beneath you. That's how you look at me. A lot of the issues I've had in the workplace has been white men and white women. I've got to be honest. And that's my lived experience, okay? I've got friends that will tell you a lot of the experiences they've had that's quite negative has been, like one of my friends, she said it's been with Asian women. And we know the intricacies of the relationship with the BAME, quote unquote, BAME community. And we understand logistically what those issues are. And they're slightly different with white people. And that's the truth. Now, I have also worked with white women who have also opened the door for me. Let me just give some balance here. But they are few and far between. I can count them on one hand. In fact, I don't need one hand. I need a couple of fingers. You see, you have to be realistic about what you're willing to tolerate. I've realized that. You've got to be realistic about what you are willing and able to tolerate, both from a day-to-day perspective, but from a mental health perspective. Because I keep saying to everybody, all my friends, your mental health is your highest form of currency. Trade it, you may never get it back. If you do, it won't be back in the same way. I tell my friends all the time. Let me be really honest with you. It doesn't matter how many figures you're earning. Yeah, because I'm a 6-figure babe. I'm going to let you know right now, it doesn't get any easier with these people. Because they expect you to prove their worth, because in the protection of white supremacy, what they have been raised to believe is that they are above. So one has to justify one's mere existence, and I'm never going to do that because I'm not enslaved to you. We are free, and free indeed. And if you've got a problem with that, then you can lady hussy yourself and disgrace yourself. I'm gonna call that shit out. I'm not here for it. I made a personal decision within myself. I'm taking a career break next year. I don't know about anybody else, but I am. And I'm financially putting myself in a situation where I can do that. Because I'm tired. I'm actually tired, you know. And I realised a couple of things. There was a point where I loved my job. There was a point where I loved it. And then I have had to question, did I love it? Or have I just been really good at it? And the love has been more about loving myself for how I've evolved and been able to be good at something and be great at something and be a subject matter expert and earn a certain amount of money. And I was listening to Audrey on the Receipts podcast, and she said something, and I can't quote her exactly, but it was along the lines of realizing that she was good at something and great at something, and the difference between that and actually loving something. And I was sitting there all bamboozled and profound. I was like, she's right. She's 100% right. I'm going to go on record to tell you this now. I'm really good at my job. In fact, I'm a subject matter expert. I'm great at my job. I'm really good at interviews, and I'm really good at converting those interviews into job offers. I've told you, my success rate is 95%. The 5% is either I don't want the job, either it's not a cultural fit. And when I talk about cultural fit, I've worked for Goldman Sachs. The culture in Goldman Sachs does not fit me. Or the manager sees me as a direct threat. Yeah? Or they're not ready for what I could bring for them. So sometimes you would have an interview for like a transformation project, but organizations aren't ready to transform. They just want somebody to, do the theory for them, but in actuality, they're not really willing to do it. That accounts for the 5% for me. So I already have those things down pat. Is it enough for me? Is it enough for me that I'm really good at my job? Is that enough? And I think for now, it's enough. For now, it's enough. I don't actually have to be in love with my job, but I'm in love with the progress and the woman I have become as a result of a lot of the things that I have experienced in the world of work. I'm in love with my resilience, my determination. I'm in love with the strategies that I have learned and imposed on in the places that I work. I'm in love with my resilience in moving away from the conventional perm role and going into contracting and sustaining a contracting career for the years that I've done. I'm in love with that, but I'm not in love with my job. I'm actually not. And the realization of that has made me also look at what I do differently. I see it as completely transactional. I see it as a means to an end. And I see it as, for me, being good at something enough to make a career out of it until I get to a point where maybe I want to kind of pivot into something else. And I've created enough options and opportunities for myself that I'm able to pivot. So, for example, I did my level 4 diploma in SIPs, and I have a lot of procurement experience, but I find procurement so mind-numbingly boring. But I could pivot into that. I can pivot into project management because a lot of my commercial contract management experience has been about implementing contract management systems, tools, governance, policy, and process into organizations. And equally, I'm good at all the legal stuff pertaining to contracts. So, for example, negotiating, drafting, analyzing, reviewing contracts. You name it, I can do it. So I've created those opportunities for myself, and that's what I love. I love opportunity. And why do I love it? Because it gives me freedom. And this is what I've always tried to advocate about, creating options for yourself so you have freedom. Those options can be the ability to pivot. Those options can be the fact that you have a job, or you've been offered a job, or you start a job, but you're still going to interviews and speaking to people and
maintaining relationships. Those are things that allow you to have options. And what does option really mean at its bare bones? It means freedom, not feeling trapped. Because there has been many, many, many times in my career where I have felt trapped. And I felt trapped by people who have made me believe that I had to prove myself. I had to prove my worth. And don't get me wrong, I think proving yourself and proving your worth are two different things. So proving yourself, for example, you pass your probation, and during that probation period, it is an opportunity to prove yourself, show that you can deliver. And those are normal things. Like that is like a normal course of things. But proving your worth is more subjective. It's more detrimental. Because when do you stop proving your worth? When do you know you're enough? And you're dealing with, and in this situation, my friend was dealing with a white woman who basically said to her, you ain't worth shit. Whatever you're presenting is not enough. And I'm going to need you to prove your worth. And that's what she meant. Lady Hussey, to that woman in Buckingham Palace, was basically saying to the Black Queen there, prove to me your worth. Prove to me that you deserve to stand here in this Buckingham Palace. Where are you from? Where are you really from? That is our lived experience. I don't think I know any Black women in my circle who was surprised by that whole Lady Hussey thing, because we live in a society where that is commonplace. A lot of us are in workplaces where it is commonplace. Either in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, I spoke to you about Stella. Now, I've got 2 contracts running, and to be honest, both white women in each of those contracts, I don't actually know what's going on with them. And I will leave one of them to another episode because her own is different. That episode, I'm thinking of entitling it Surviving the Cockroach, because girl, queen. But for the purposes of this episode, Stella is, I told you guys, she resides far away from the UK. She's in a completely different country. And she works for this UK organisation, which is a global organisation for, I guess it is global, but they're not big fishes in the sea. They're not even piranhas. What is the smallest fish in the sea? What is that? Is it what's the one that you find in Pepper Soup? Whatever it is, it's the smallest fish in the sea. They are, but this company, it's just it is a very toxic company. I can tell you that now. I can also say to you that I've managed to carve out a way of just shutting out the noise by just focusing on my project. I don't go to their team meetings. I keep reinforcing to them, I'm not part of your team. I'm a contractor. Any meeting that isn't about my project, I just don't turn up. I'm sick and tired of having to reinforce certain things, so I just do. If it's not about the project, I don't turn up. Why? Because you have a statement of works with my limited company for this particular project. Anything outside of the project has nothing to do with me. And I made it clear. So now, since they don't hear, I have to then operate like that. Because for these people, they don't hear word, they don't hear noise. They don't hear no. And they don't hear no because in the protection of white supremacy, they have been told that no is not a word that me as a Black person can say. Why? Because I need to be agreeable. And if I'm not, I'm a problem. No. That is not what I'm going to allow to continue to be the narrative of what some white people in the workplace believe I should be. And it's not all, it's some. And it's the some who are actually racist. That's what we're talking about here. Stella has a massive problem with me. It's a serious problem. And the problem she has with me is she tries to engage with me, but I give her nothing. And I'm going to explain why. I've done my due diligence on Stella, and I know enough to know that she's been in the company for 8 years. She is very familiar with very senior members of staff. She thinks she has influence. She actually has none. She doesn't know how to do her job properly. She has actually said to me that she has no understanding of contracts. This is a vendor operations manager, by the way. Vendor operations manager understanding, drafting, doing contracts, and actually having an understanding about contracts and the construction of contracts is probably fundamental to her job. But this white lady who is basking in her white privilege has said to me, who she doesn't know, in a meeting with someone else, that she doesn't have a grasp on contracts. So my question is, what does this woman do? She can get away with that, right? In a way that we can't. No problem. So she keeps going to my colleague. And this colleague is working on, when I say, well, I'm leading the project, but he is like the project sponsor. So let's call him Anthony. Anthony is the project sponsor. Anthony is a bit of a chatterbox, yeah. He just, but I think part of it is that he hates the organisation, and he also looks for a safe space to offload, and I happen to be his safe space because, number one, I don't repeat anything. Number two, I humour him, but I just humour him so I can get through my contract. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not interested in having a colleague relationship outside of work. I'm just not interested. I need you to approve my invoices, make sure my invoices get paid, and that's it. It's a purely transactional relationship. Anthony isn't a bad person. He's just not my type of person. Why? Because I haven't come here to make friends. I've come here to deliver a project and get out. But I also understand likability politics. And I don't need to be liked by everybody. I just need to be liked by somebody within the organisation that's actually fundamental to what I do. He's fundamental to what I do because he's the project sponsor. He will approve my invoice, and he ensures that my invoice get paid. So for me, when we're looking about critical stakeholders, he would be my critical stakeholder for my own selfish reasons, and I don't give a shit. Because the relationship is transactional because I am a consultant. Now, if I was a perm, I would still see the relationship as transactional. I would still see it in the same way. Because I genuinely think that a contractor mentality as a perm employee works perfectly. The problem is a lot of people who have never been a contractor before feel like they have to be a bit more invested in organisations, unless it's your father's business that you know that he's leaving to you in his will. I don't think there's any reason to be that invested. And I think it's about balance. And I think a lot of us don't know how to strike the balance because we've been made to feel like in order for us to get that bonus, we're going to have to lick a lot of arse, and we're going to have to go to the pub even though we hate alcohol, and we're going to have this shit level of small talk. And for me personally, I can't do it. This is why contracting is amazing for me. These people where I work constantly remind me why I don't want to be a perm member of staff, and why contracting is very safe for me, as long as I understand the mechanics of how to navigate, which I do. So obviously Anthony comes back to me. So Anthony actually reports into Stella. The irony of it is really weird because Anthony's actually good at what he does. Him reporting into Stella has to be because Stella's been there for 8 years. It's not because of anything else. They're very I wouldn't even call them hierarchical, but they're very like you know, like that whole, you've been here for 8 years, so it gives you the right to manage somebody, not that you actually have the ability to manage them. That's this type of organisation. They're chaotic. They don't know what they're doing. You've got people in roles purely through because of nepotism. And it's a type of nepotism that's actually quite sad because they can't even handle the role. So they start making up titles like, what do you call it? Resolute? No, not even resolute. What was it? One of them has a role, and I thought it was so funny. But it's like mad roles that they create for themselves called fortitude manager. Like some bullshit like that. Or they'll have a role called positivity delivery manager. That's some dumb roles. When you start hearing them stupid roles, nepotism's not too far away. Let me just tell you now. Anyway, so what I've deduced with Stella is she has a low self-esteem, and partly it's because she's only known this organisation. Yeah, she's been there for 8 years. She finds comfort in knowing everything about you so that she knows what to talk about. And then what she does is she puts herself in a position with seniors where she'll have conversations about people who she doesn't know, just so she can have those conversations. You see how stupid she is? She doesn't even have those relationships to be able to move up the career ladder and progress. She's been in the same role, in the same company for 8 years, and she only recently got a pay rise. So already I know you're stupid. Sorry, not sorry. I know it doesn't take 8 years to get a pay rise. I'm sorry. You're in a whole different country and you still can't negotiate. Well, my thing is, if you can't even negotiate a contract as part of your job, how are you actually going to negotiate your employment contract? Simple things, simple maths. So I don't talk to her. I've been on meetings, 3 meetings with her, and she keeps trying to chat to me, and I just ignore her. Or, for example, she sent me an IM message because one of the people in the meeting was from New York, and she's actually a black woman, this woman from New York. And I said to her, you know, I really love New York, And then we started talking about steak, and then Stella tried to get involved. She wasn't part of that conversation. Like, we were waiting for everyone to join the meeting. Stella tried to get involved, and she sent me an IM of places in New York that do good steak. I was like, thanks. Like, fuck off. Like, why are you sending me an IM? She's one of them. But there was this one particular meeting, and the CEO was on the meeting, and Stella was in the meeting, Anthony was in the meeting, and I was on the meeting. But Anthony was late, so waiting for him. So I'm sitting in this meeting, obviously I decided to put my camera on. It depends how I feel. If I don't want to put my camera on, I don't. If I want to, I will. I put my camera on. And here's Stella. Oh my God, that ring is lovely. I'm not one at one point thinking she's talking to me. So when she's talking about ring now, I'm looking at my Cartier rings because I'm forgetting that my engagement ring and my wedding ring is on my finger. I don't look at people like that hard on Teams. So she goes, no, it looks like you've got a wedding ring. I was like, oh yeah. And she goes, oh, you're married? I was like, well, it looks like it. And the CEO starts laughing. She goes, oh, that ring looks like a pear drop. It looks expensive. I says, yeah, it is. My husband's rich. If you see the way this woman's mouth dropped open, and let me tell you why I said it. I said it because she wasn't expecting me to say it. I said it because she was making a big hoo-ha about my ring in front of the CEO. It was like she was so shocked to see this ring. And she was so shocked that I could possibly be married because maybe she thinks, I don't know what she thinks, but she's made so many assumptions about me that actually came out in that small interaction. So when I said, yeah, my husband's rich, and I'm not sitting here saying he's rich or not, okay? But I just wanted to call her bluff because I find that with certain white people, you need to call their bluff. Because I don't know what ramshacks they think we're living in. But sometimes you just have to call their bluff. And one thing with me is I'll say the thing that you least expect me to say because I know I'm going to get the most reaction from you. Her mouth was catching flies. I saw her tonsils. That's how wide her mouth was open. In my head, I said, yes, bitch, ingest it, digest it, and don't shit it out. Have constipation. May what I've just said give you constipation. Then the CEO tries to change the subject because he can now see that it's becoming awkward because her shock is becoming very apparent to everybody. Now the next question is, why are you so shocked, bitch? Then Stella goes, oh yeah, because she said the CEO's name. I know he's going to propose to his wife, propose to his girlfriend. And then she was like, oh my God. So he looked visibly embarrassed. So again, what have I learned about Stella? I've learned about Stella that she's in everyone's business. She got a big mouth. She can't control herself. And equally as well, she don't know how to behave in front of the CEO. And this is the reason why nobody's promoting her in 8 years. Because you ain't showing yourself respect. So why should anybody show you? These are all the things I deduced in a meeting that hadn't even started and we were already 5 minutes in. Due diligence. This woman will carry gossip and carry people's business, you know. I know this because Anthony tells me all the time. He will come and moan and I'll just sit there listening. And my response is, well, how do you want to deal with it? I'm like a therapist and I don't mind. Why? Because as he's talking, time is ticking and my invoices are getting paid. So I don't care. The more you talk, the less I can do my work. So what are we doing? But let me give you the penultimate of what's happened. And bear in mind, I'm condensing this, right? This has gone on for a period of about 3 weeks of her trying to ask questions to Anthony about me. Anthony basically saying, Toy's just focused on delivering because Anthony doesn't know anything about me. He said he was surprised that I was married because this is what Stella told him. He said he didn't know. I said, yeah, but it's not a source of conversation. I said, I personally don't care if you're married or not. It's got nothing to do with me. I said, that day I just happened to have my ring on. I said, I don't even wear my ring sometimes because I'm married. I've signed the paper. The ring is just the visual confirmation of what we signed. And he just laughs because he's also realising I don't know much about Toya. So I'm not here for that. People, listen, you give people enough information about you, they'll decide how they use it. That's how I operate in life generally. And don't get me wrong, I think that there are developed personal skills that you have to develop when you're a perm. But even then, you need to be careful what you're communicating with these people, because I have seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears how personal information can be weaponized against you. Don't be stupid. How many times have we come on this podcast and I've told you where people are sharing social media, and then it's that same social media that had them for gross misconduct. That same social media that had them on final warning. Be careful how much you're sharing with people, you know. Be very, very careful. If they stumble across, oh, you're married, that's different. You can manage that narrative. You can manage that. But the information you freely give to people, especially as black women, be guided. Be guided. Some of you think that you can operate like some of these white women. You are not a white woman. You are a woman. You are a black woman. The rules are different for us. Understand the rules, how to manipulate them, how to maneuver them, and how to strategically navigate them to get what you want. If you're just giving free information, I've got to ask you, what are you getting in return? These are the questions I want to ask you. But it gets better with Stella. Anthony called me last week and he's moaning about Stella. These times, he's not moaning to her, you know. He's coming to moan to me. So he's just talking. He goes, Toy, I need to tell you something. And I know it's going to annoy you, but I just think if I give it to you, say it to you, it gives you context about why I'm so annoyed with Stella. I says, why? I goes, what? He says, basically, Stella sent me a message just out of the blue last week. And she basically said that I should let her know if I need tips on how to manage you. I said, come again? He repeated it. I said, can you send me a screen grab of what she says? Because you said that she sent it to you. So it was probably IM or email. He said, yeah. He sent it over to me. I'll screenshot it. And she basically said, hi, Anthony, hope you're well. Just to let you know that if you need tips on how to manage Toya, just let me know. So you know what I did? I said, Anthony, this has crossed the line. And whilst I'm willing to keep confidence, yeah, there is a line that cannot be crossed. I'm not a little girl. And even if I was, a little girl deserves respect. I said, this has crossed the line. And I'm going to explain. So I says, I apologise for how you're going to take this. But as far as I'm concerned, respect is mutual. And I will not be disrespected or degraded by anybody. I invited Stella on the call. While we were having the team's call, I invited her on the call. Then she come and go, oh, Toya, was we supposed to have a meeting? I says, no, I don't have any meetings with you. You've got nothing to do with my project. Then I shared my screen. I said, Anthony has just brought this to my attention. She went quiet. I said, let me be really clear to you, Stella. We're not on a cotton farm. Your name is not Master Stella. I'm not picking cotton for you. I'm not picking anything on your farm. Slavery has been abolished. When you sent this message, it was very, very, very triggering and incites a connotation that is racist. Because I don't see you asking Anthony if he needs tips to manage anybody. But I just want to be clear to you about something. I'm not here to be managed. Because if you understand contracting, you will also understand that I am managed by my limited company and I'm the director of my limited company. You can't manage me because number one, in order to be compliant with IR35, I have to contract my services through my limited company. I'm not part of the team. In fact, I'm only in this organisation. I'm not a part of this organisation. And that's why I don't come to your team meetings, because I'm not in your team. In fact, I don't have a team. I'm a team of one. But I want to be clear to you about something. When you offering tips on how to manage me, or suggesting you're offering tips? Is it tips that are specifically for a black woman? Oh, no. I said, excuse me, I'm not finished. Is it tips specifically for a black woman? Because when you talk about tips to manage me, what are you basing it on? Because for me, it triggers something within me that tells me that this could be akin to something a little bit more sinister. And I want to be clear with you. Do not send messages like this again. Otherwise, I'll be forced to consider that this could be racist. This woman didn't talk the whole time I spoke. Anthony didn't say a word. I said, Stella, have you got anything to say? I don't have anything to say, I just feel a little bit stressed. I said, this is not about you. Your fragility has arisen now because you've been called out, but you're not considering my fragility when this information was passed to me. And now I have evidence of this. I'm also fragile. And your fragility does not surpass mine, because I am at the receiving end of your tips. I said, do not let this happen again. I ended the call. Black women apparently should be agreeable, or you are a problem. I'm not agreeable. I don't have to prove my worth. The reason I'm sharing this with you is if you want to burst the bubble of white supremacy, you have to be present to burst the bubble. And there's ways. There's ways to do it. When you're in meetings and when people are over talking you, it's that white supremacy that gives them that yellow pages to stand on, to feel comfortable to talk over you. But they wouldn't talk to a fellow person who looked like them. They wouldn't talk over them. When I'm in a meeting and you over talk me, I stop talking. When you finish talking, I continue where I left off from, like you never said a word. There's ways to deal with white supremacy. And you need to gain confidence in the quick wins of dealing with some of this white supremacy. You have to do your due diligence. I started this off by telling you what I had learned from this woman in 3 weeks. This woman is so interested in me, it's unbelievable. Every time, remember I told you, this is the same woman that said I should use my personal email address because the Teams on my personal laptop wasn't working with their remote patching until they gave me a laptop. This is a woman that by fire, by force, for some reason she's interested. Of course they're interested. This woman has a problem. I have a ring on. She wants to know where is this ring? Why? Because some white women question the origins of anything good that they see in you. She wants to come and tell me she's studying MSIPs. I said, oh yeah, I did SIPs. I did level 4. Oh yeah, but I'm doing level 6. I said, yeah, but I've got my masters. I say it. A master's trumps that your SIPs. Hello. Don't do that. You don't have to crush another woman to feel any type of anything. But for some reason, there are some white women that get a kick out of it. How can you say to somebody, you have to prove your worth? A white woman, they come out with this thing. When you challenge them, their fragility comes out. And I'm not playing that game. And I will call it out. I will say your fragility it's not a currency here. Whether I'm a perm, temporary, casual staff, contractor, I will have the same energy. I will. Because when I don't, I'm complicit in also protecting white supremacy that has no interest in me. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? We all have a role to play in dismantling white supremacy and bursting the bubble. We all have a role to play in it. Where if you choose to bury your head, one day they'll weaponize the concept of white supremacy on you. Someone asked me a few years ago, they said, Toya, is the goal equality? I said the goal can be equality, but this country is far from equality. They're far from it. Don't ever I'm just saying to you guys, don't ever let the fact that there's an Asian Prime Minister in the UK ever distract you from the fundamentals of racism in this country. He was the second choice. You've got to remember that. He was not the first. If you speak to the average person here in the UK, or if you listen to LBC, they'll tell you what they think. They don't want him there. I'm telling you right now, I'll be shocked if Conservatives, when there is an election, that they're back in power. They're out. I can tell you that now. And if you ask the average person here in the UK why they voted for Brexit, they'll tell you it's immigration. Because fundamentally, this country is racist. So if one is seeking equality, you can seek it all you like, but the reality is you're living in a country that continues to protect white supremacy and perpetuates racism. And that's the fact. You've got a monarchy who refuse to acknowledge its complicity in slavery and colonialization. They don't want to even acknowledge it. If they start acknowledging, they know they have to go down the route of reparations, and they're not willing to do that because they're still profiting from their complicit behavior, from their proactivity in colonialism. They're still profiting from it. If you're not sure if they're still profiting from it, go to the British Museum. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Stella tried it. I don't give a damn if Anthony's upset about what I did. I don't care. Because when he decided to share that with me, he didn't want to consider my fragility or my mental health. He didn't look at me as a human being. He didn't once consider how that would make me feel. Okay, maybe he didn't understand the implications. Let's just assume he didn't understand the implication. But somebody is attacking me who I do not have any link to. And you're telling me like I ain't going to do something. Just because you're complaining about somebody and don't want to do something doesn't mean I'm not going to. I'm a 38-year-old woman. I know I look like a baby girl to some of these people. That's why I think some of them do this. Don't worry, the podcast episode is coming about ageism because I think we need to talk about that. Black may not crack, but believe me, underneath it all, as black women, we are in pain. We go through a lot in the workplace every single day. It's exhausting questioning. When someone says something to you, you can't just take it on face value. You gotta question certain things. You gotta look at certain things. It's fucking mentally taxing. But this is what our existence looks like. So Anthony can fuck off if he's offended what I did. And you know something? After the call with Stella, about an hour later, he calls me and he says he understands why I did what I did. I was like, all right, cool. I don't give a shit if he doesn't understand. I said, listen, I'm here to deliver a project. But every other day, you keep coming to me with issues you've got with Stella, which is fair enough. But you're also sharing with me things that she has come to you about me. This is the same woman then will come into a meeting and she'll act like butter doesn't melt while she is trying to do whatever she's doing in the periphery. I don't have time for that. And this is the same woman that says that she doesn't understand contracts. Well, how have you got time to do your day job when you are busy lighting fires everywhere? And I said to him, I'm going to just say this to you. Anthony, I have no issue with you. I enjoy working with you. I'm enjoying delivering this project. But you need to be guided. There are some things I don't need to know. But the things I need to know, the things you feel to tell me, I will never guarantee that I will not act on it. Especially when it attacks me as a woman and attacks me as a black woman. I am a black woman first. Do you know what he said to me? He goes, he never looked at it like that. Because when he went to school and where he grew up, it was a white-dominated area. And he said he went to school with one other black person. So a lot of what I'm saying, he's also learning from me. I didn't even want to address that. I was quiet because I said to myself, you know what? I deal with one person at a time. I can't. As black women, if you want to be successful, you have to be prepared to actively burst the bubble of white supremacy. And I always say to you, and I've got a podcast episode about it, that not every fight is your fight to fight. But there are some that you're going to have to be present for. Because it's you know what? Because it's the deciding factor of whether you're going to have peace or whether you're constantly going to be at war. Ever since that conversation, Stella hasn't once called. She may listen. I'm very aware that she's probably gone to the CEO, she's probably gone to this person, but none of them have come to me. Because they can't come to me. What are they going to come and say to me? She's going to say exactly what I said, because the shock of her fragility will mean that she will pass the message on. And as she's passing the message on, what she's also doing is letting them know that Toya ain't going to stand for this shit. These macro aggressions is not what I'm going to accept. So when she's passing, she's doing me a favour. As she's doing that, I'm delivering my project, you know. They can't fault me for my work because I'm delivering. They can't fault me for the reporting, I'm delivering. They can't fault me for the things I'm delivering as part of the transformation project because I'm delivering. And I'm strategic enough to know that ultimately that's what I need to do. All the other stuff is to give me the breathing space to deliver and to set the tone. I set the tone with her. Her mouth is so big, she's so fragile, she's so stupid that she's going to go to the other people in that organisation who are 95% white. She's going to spread the news far and wide. I don't even need one of them tannoys. Homegirl going to do it for me. And when they come to me, they're going to come correct. I'm telling you that not one of them, I was waiting for the CEO, I was waiting for him. He can't come to me with that. How else is... you can't question how I interpret that. Oh, let me know if you want any tips on how to manage Toya. It can be interpreted anyhow I want because you've spoken about me. You put that in a message about me. I've got nothing to do with you. I'm not in your team. I'm not in this. I don't directly work with you. You're not part of anything. Where did that come from? That came from your bookcase of racism. That came from you thinking that you have some superior power over me because I'm a black woman. That's where the shit came from. And now that I've shaken the room and I've shaken the chair and I've shaken the table, you have to go and tell everybody else where the earthquake could possibly be. Don't fuck with me. I'm not the one to play with that shit. I have worked so hard to be the person I am. There has been many a days in my perm life where I was in the toilet crying my eyes out because someone was shouting at me, because somebody didn't give me permission to use the toilet. Imagine when I first started working, I still thought I had to ask permission to use the toilet. Because when we come out of school, and when we was in school, was we not asking permission to use the toilet? I was. I came from somebody throwing pieces of paper at me and giving me paper cuts. I've come from humiliation. I've come from training other people who are earning more than me and then have to justify why I deserve my bonus. I've come from workplace trauma where I have literally been told there's nowhere to promote you to. I've been told that this is as far as it goes. I've been told I won't amount to anything. I've been told all them things. Not now to break all of that, work through all of that trauma, be the person I am today for this little infested cockroach bitch to come and say, if you want tips on how to manage Toya, manage yourself, manage your chaotic life, manage your workload, bitch. You ain't gonna manage me. What does manage really mean when she says it in this context? Control. Why do you feel you've got to control me? Because I'm exhibiting something that you feel you need to control. I'm exhibiting confidence. I'm exhibiting knowledge, and you feel you need to control it. That's what that is. And what does control mean in this context? They want to stamp on you. How dare you be confident? How dare you have a high self-esteem about yourself? How dare you? They're intimidated by it. So what do they try to do? Remove that from you so that you become subservient to them. No. It's time to burst the bubble of white supremacy that gives them confidence and protection into thinking that they are more superior than us. No, you're not more superior than us. You're not. Absolutely. Why does there need to be superiority? Because you've been told that you're better than. Why are you better than? Because of the colour of your skin? Absolutely not. Then when you accuse these people of racism, they'll start having a breakdown. Yeah. And start making it about them. No, not with me. Stella is mad. And she has a counterpart. Oh, yeah. You see, one thing about these bullies is they come in packs. There's a colleague that she has called Natalie. And Natalie and Stella hate each other. But they're exactly the same person. Stella is mad. Natalie's one is mad. But at least with Natalie, she's not trying to pretend. She's a bitch. She will tell you that she don't care. And she's a white woman that feels as though she can shout, and that is where her power comes. She knows that she can't operate like that with me. Yeah. She asked me, Natalie, why are you here? That's what she asked me on day 2. That's another story for another day. Today, we're talking about Stella. Because Stella ain't got no groove because she's mad. She ain't got no rhythm either. Crazy. I really hope that you all have taken something from this episode. Because I believe that certain things happen to strengthen you, to make you realise certain things, and also to maintain your self-esteem. It's really hard maintaining your self-esteem in workplaces that make you feel like you're nothing, and that's the reality of it. But I really would like to hope that since lockdown and all the things that we learned in lockdown and all the episodes that came from there and all our lived experiences have made us look at where we work, our employment as employees, as contractors, as whatever industry you're in. Because I always say the Toy Talks podcast and platform is not just for people in the corporate world. I'm no longer in the corporate world. It's just for black women in the working world. Our experiences are the same, similar, or alike. Why? Because fundamentally we're working with people who fundamentally don't want to see us where we are, or question our credibility, or question why we're here, or are intimidated by us, our self-esteem, our ability to be resilient enough to continue. But there's a lot that can be said also for mental health, and I've spoken about mental health before, and I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to say, I haven't been on holiday for 3 years. The last time I was on holiday was before COVID. I believe that was 2020. I came back, was it 2020? Yeah, 2020, February 2020, I went to Morocco for a friend's wedding. That was the last holiday. And I realised that, Toya, what is it that you're working for if it's not to create a better life for yourself? And part of that better life is also the ability to go on holiday. Those people who have been following me for a really long time, I used to go to New York every year up until COVID. I went to Miami for Christmas, one Christmas with Kay. I've gone to Kenya, South Africa. I've gone to so many different countries, but for some reason, as COVID hit, I just stopped. And we all stopped, didn't we? I booked myself a holiday early next year. I'm off, mate. I'm off. And I may extend the holiday longer than the initial period I've booked. Why? Because I deserve. I need a break. I need a break. These people will run you mad. How many of us take a break? How many of us self-care enough, book a spa, book a holiday? And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. But why? And you know what? It can be extravagant too. But we are made to feel like we have to keep on this rat race. And I'm telling you, if we don't take respite, we're going to have a breakdown. We're going to have a breakdown. And for me, I'm not willing to break down in the hands of people who have been complicit in my trauma. That's not going to happen. Now, the reason why I'm speaking more about white women in this episode is because some white women are very dangerous because of their fragility or their perceived fragility and how it's weaponized, used, and how society sees white female fragility. It's dangerous. And white men operate differently. And I'm not saying that racism is only experienced by us as black women, by just white people. We know that in that pit of bane, we have our own experiences of racism too. But again, when you're working in white-dominated industries, sometimes your experience is akin to where things are more dominant. And for me, in my industry, it's more white-dominated, to be honest. And for me, I've also found that I've sometimes had to, especially my early career, kind of speak softer to be perceived a certain way. And I realised, no, they just don't see you like that, Toya. So speak how you speak. I mean, I've been in interviews where at the end of an interview, someone says, oh, you speak very well. In my head, I was like, as opposed to, this is what I'm saying, these are the microaggressions and the microaggressive attacks that we go through sometimes on a daily basis. And it's often very exhausting to sit through that. So what I'm also encouraging is respite. If you can, use your annual leave. You are not going to be rewarded by still having 15 days at the end of the year, babes, or 20 days, babes, or coming in and cancelling annual leave. It's not gonna build up. You know, some of these people, like, they forget. This is why I keep telling you about the feedback folder, because some of these people forget. You know, when the going gets rough, they'll tell you ain't done shit. These times, you probably contributed to the profit and the bottom line, but they don't see them things. If you want to burst the bubble of white supremacy, you need to start seeing yourself. You need to start recognizing your worth, and you need to be able to advocate for yourself in a way that also protects you too. You need to start building that evidence, that burn folder, that feedback folder. Stop emailing me, asking me what episodes do I talk about feedback folder, when I have episodes upon episodes, and then I've got the show notes there. Go and read them. Go and do the work. We're all doing the work around here. Why should I do the work for you? And I'm still living in my lived experience of whatever I'm going through. For the last 2 weeks, I'm telling you, just when I think that I've experienced a lot, I realise I'm probably not even halfway through the things that do you understand? I've seen a lot and continue to see a lot in the workplace, and continue to learn a lot and build a lot on myself as a woman, as a black woman. And as long as there is strength in my body, I will continue to share the blueprint of success. Because listen, me advocating for myself, Stella and Anthony, I'm still working. They need me. They need me. Do you understand? I'm not gonna shrink myself to accommodate for people who feel like shrinking myself makes them feel better. I'm not. I have shrunk myself before, and my mental health was compromised, and I started questioning even who I was as a person. I'm not shrinking myself to make white people feel more comfortable. I'm not shrinking myself so Stella feels confident as a white woman, because why must one cancel the other? Why can't we both exist in confidence? Why must you feel like you have to be the person on top of me? Why? We are not in the cotton farm. Slavery has been abolished. Let's not do that. Listen, I'm going to leave it there. I'm actually going to leave it there. And I'm going to say, those who are open-minded, those who want to listen and learn, may you receive the messages in this episode. Whoever needs to receive this episode, may you receive it. If there is anyone that you can think of that will benefit from the podcast, this episode, previous episodes, we need to share it. There is no point hoarding the knowledge. Don't you know, the more we share the knowledge, the more we're able to create spaces for each other and ourselves to exist in some type of peace. The more we share the blueprint, the more we're able to have community, the more we're able to share and start dismantling a lot of the racist constructs, and start dismantling and bursting the bubble of white supremacy. The sooner we are able to have frank conversations with ourselves and each other and share, that's what they're afraid of. That we will come together and share, and then we'll start developing strategies in how to navigate and deal with certain situations. They don't want that, because that means an increase in self-esteem. You have a duty to have the highest form of self-esteem when you're working in places where they don't want to see you. How about that? If you want to follow me on social media, I am very active on my personal Instagram page. My Instagram handle is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks podcast has an Instagram page too. It's Toya_Talks. I also have a YouTube channel called At Home with Toya. I will be uploading every 2 weeks. I have I have a vlog that I'm currently editing, so it should go live this week, and every 2 weeks thereafter. I'm starting to feel a lot more like myself by the grace of God, and insofar as I'm starting to feel better, I will continue to, provide content and upload on my different platforms. But also, I am going to say the podcast will probably be every 2 weeks. I will aim for every week, but it may be every 2 weeks. And I also want to let you all know as well, the podcast is not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. And there will come a point where the podcast will end. I don't know whether that's going to be next year, the year after, or the year after that. But what I will say is I've left the blueprint for you. I've left episodes for you to re-listen and revisit. Every episode is still very relevant. I also have the Toy Talks website and the masterclasses, which again are very relevant and support the podcast episodes. I have so many emails from people who maybe didn't want to purchase a masterclass, but went ahead and did it, and they're messaging me telling me how it's been transformative in their career. Or people are asking me, can you add this material and add this? And that's now what I'm working on, is adding more material to the masterclasses. And I want to do a webinar. And it's something that I wanted to do last beginning of the year. No, it's something I wanted to do earlier on in the year. And I had planned for it. And then obviously, you know, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I became really, really unwell, very, very sick. And I was very vocal about how ill I have been. I've lost so much weight. I've gone from 93 kg to 81 kg, and I'm losing even more weight. And that is more because I haven't been feeling very well. And what I've realised in that is I've done enough work within my community for you guys to take the blueprint and run with it. And those of you who do not want to use it or have not used it, more fool you. But there'll come a point where I will step away from the podcast, and it's going to be up to you to make the choice and decision how you want to navigate work, how successful you want to be. I wish somebody left the blueprint for me, because I would have been successful years ago. And now in my late 30s, realising success and understanding also that maybe I needed to walk that path for whatever reason, and I embrace it. But don't give up on yourself by not taking the opportunity to learn from other people's lived experiences. If you have a work-related dilemma, make sure you email me, hello@toytalks.com. I will read out your dilemma and we'll address it here on the Toy Talks podcast. It will be anonymous. That means your name, nothing about you will be revealed, or anything that somebody could refer or recognise will be referenced. Your anonymity will be protected. All I ask is for you to be very clear, straight to the point, and what outcome you are seeking, because that will help me direct, how I then give you advice about whatever situation it is that you've written in about. And also as well, it's important for you to really understand that when you're sending a dilemma, be open to receiving what I am going to say to you. And yes, there may be some harshness, but believe me when I say, I want us as Black women to be successful, be in the world of work and in life. And it's important for us to come as a community and come here as a safe space to share. So if you are going to send a dilemma in, I will do my best to answer it as best as I can. And be brave. I will see you all again for a brand new episode of the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toy Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.